Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Karen Bart Alexander. And facetiously, Olabisi, I will say you've asked what are the mechanisms to remove the blocks. And I want to remind you very facetiously that dynamite is always an option for removing blocks. But having said that, I want to ask a couple questions. And I think these questions are very important to the whole question of empowering local government, and particularly the development of communities. For example, in our country, what is the information base that we use for decision making in communities? What is the relationship between the information that is collected by the CSO every 10 years and what happens in communities and how communities are governed? How are the needs and the priorities of the communities determined? I would think that it is very important to have a very clinical and scientific process for determining the needs and the priorities of communities. And I don't see that that particularly happens at this point in time. Having determined the priorities, how are those priorities resourced? Do we have now constituency-based budgets? I believe that we need to have constituency-based budgets that are fed into the national budget so that when the government is making up the national budget, it takes into consideration the particular priorities of the community and the cost of those priorities, and so they would be able to resource those priorities through the national budget. And then the question is, who takes responsibility for championing those priorities? One would think that having had a process of information and needs assessments and priority development and budgeting and that kind of thing, that the MP and the local government officials will embrace and be part of that process, and at that point in time, they are the ones who will be responsible. That becomes their work plan. The priorities of the communities and the constituencies would become the work plan of the MPs and the local government councillors and so on. And they are the ones who champion these priorities through the central government and that kind of thing, through to implementation. So I would think that one of the major problems that we have is that we do not have a really scientific basis for conducting our local government affairs in this country. And we need to develop that as soon as possible. Many MPs are the most bewildered people that I come across, because they often tell you, but I have done so much for my constituency, but they don't have a clue what the constituency consists of, because they do not have proper information with which to work. Information that tells them about the communities within their constituency. So some MPs feel that when they have organized a basketball court, they have done so much for their constituency, but how many communities within the constituency benefit from a basketball court? You have so many different communities within a constituency that you need to address as an MP or a local government councillor whose needs you need to address. And if in the first instance you cannot recognize, because you do not have information, who are the various communities that make up your constituency, then you will always have a problem in satisfying constituency needs. So basically, that is all I want to say, that we need to ask ourselves some questions. We need to answer those questions if we have to have a stronger system of local government. Thank you.